Good evening, Soul family. I'm looking at the chat board here. We're live from the Soul offices with a special edition of Why Solle Works. My name is Greg Halliday, and I want to welcome each of you who are joining in and those who will watch the recording. Take a minute, by the way, and while you're doing that, we've got lots of great information about our new product that I'm going to introduce in just a second. But take a look at the chat board, as always. I love that. I can already see a lot of you. The first chats I see are about the Soul family. Hello, Soul family. Good afternoon, Soul family. I love to see that. That's something unique that you'll find if you're new listening to this recording or watching us live. The Soul community is a really tight and I think an open and an upbeat community, and you'll love the friends that you make and the associations that you gain as you become part of this community as well. So we welcome you if you're watching this for the first time. We're excited. It's a little bit of a special edition of Why Solle Works. Usually in this show, we get into a little bit of the detail behind some of the soul formulas and some of the objectives in these formulations and how they can make a difference in our health and wellness. Tonight, we actually have two important messages. The first is the new product that we're launching, and the second is a digital product. To help me with that and joining me in just a few minutes is Hope Anderson, Marketing Director here at Soul Naturals. But first, before Hope joins us, let's talk about an important part of wellness that is often overlooked, probably both in men and in women. But in tonight, I admit we're going to focus a little bit more toward women. And I would say women of all ages, starting maybe younger than you might think, and going as old as we all hope we can reach. Speaking of men and women, we all want to have energy and vitality for many years in life, and that's a product that we're talking about today that fills some gaps that help us do that with our life. So I'm really excited to introduce to you this new product. Now, I've got a question for you to introduce it. Just ask yourself for a minute. Think about you yourself. Lately, as you think about your own wellness, has anything been missing or lacking, or is there something that you wish you had or felt in your overall health? For instance, how about your energy level? How about mood? Anything to do with mood? Something missing maybe in hormone balance. That's a biggie. Hormones are involved in just about everything in our wellness. How about mental clarity? Just having that quick thought and clearness of perspective. Anything missing there? Anything that you'd like to improve? What about sleep? Something missing there? How about just the way I feel the back half of the day, that afternoon glow, to call it one way? Anything missing from that? How about just overall in health? Maybe I haven't covered your item that you'd like to see some improvement in. In overall health, do you feel like something's missing? That is a common situation in I would say our modern times, because of the diet that we typically consume, lots of processed foods, perhaps a lot of on the go, the level of stress. I think also you have technology, chemicals, and the proliferations of a lot of the advancements of society that can be hard on the body, even though they're really convenient. These can all affect our health. So if you feel like something is missing, you're not alone. This is something that all of us deal with, and I think it's just part of life. But there are some really powerful solutions, or at least great contributors to mitigating those feelings of something being missing. And so for your consideration, if you feel like something's missing right now, why don't you consider this for just a second? All right, so today we are turning our view to the oceans and to the vegetables of the ocean and the nutritional power that they contain. We're introducing VibrantSea. It has a subtitle, as you can see, Ocean Plant Power, and a lightning bolt coming out of that power. because literally many ocean plants, particularly those that we've chosen for the formula, are loaded with nutritional energy. Their blend and their concentrations and their proportions are different than those that are found typically on land. And most of what we consume nutritionally does come from the land. That makes sense. Some people maybe consume more from the ocean, but that's so often not the plants. It's so often the fish and the animals in the ocean. We're focusing on ocean plant power with VibrantSea. And you'll notice on the bottle, there's a little drop down on the label that says thyroid support. In fact, before we get into more, let me share a little bit about what's on the label. First of all, here's the price. You can see that this is a 60 capsule bottle, but they are the special double-aught capsules, which mean they hold twice the amount of a typical capsule. So in this 60 count bottle, you're getting the equivalent of 120 standard size capsules. And why did we do that? Because the recommended proportion in one capsule, which is the starting point for daily maintenance, is the equivalent of 2 normal capsules, but you only have to take 1. So we already have that convenience factor with the nutritional power of VibrantSea. With 1 capsule, you're getting the equivalent of 2 normal capsules. So there's a little bit about the price. Now, the quote that you see on this slide is from the backside of the label. VibrantSea brings powerful and diverse ocean plant energy and minerals for optimal thyroid function with naturally occurring iodine, boron, fucoxanthin, fucoidin, and astaxanthin. Now, if some of those nutrients, some of those words are a little strange, that's okay. They are somewhat strange, and yet they fill gaps. They are difference makers in wellness in so many areas of health, and we're going to see that today. What I'm going to share with you was part of a training that we recently had here in Utah with some of our brand specialists, and we talked in depth about this formula. I have taken highlights from that training, and some of them are my own from the presentation I gave, and much of it is from Dr. Allison Caldwell Andrews, who is our chief scientific advisor. She highlights some of these strange words you see on this slide and gives us what they do for us in wellness. And secondly, I've taken a significant portion from what Valerie Bledsoe gave in a really, really important presentation about the mineral components of these ocean plants, why they're so powerful. And so I'll be presenting those to you as well, and you'll get that nice summary and the important points from this training. Here's a little bit more from the back of the label of VibrantSea. It's a second paragraph. It says, though important for everyone, these nutrients, men, women, and I would add of all ages, can consume this product. The vital ocean nutrients in VibrantSea are also particularly impactful during perimenopause and menopause. So VibrantSea is a red label lifting product. It's about leveling up mood, nutrition, energy, and hormone balance. Now that topic of menopause and perimenopause is the very topic that Hope Anderson will join me in a minute here, and she'll point you to some wonderful new resources there. We're equally excited to introduce those to you tonight together with the VibrantSea. So let's look at VibrantSea for a minute. What's inside the bottle? Well, there are 7, I would kind of add a lucky 7 lifting ingredients. You have this deep blue-green spirulina. You have an Icelandic kelp blend, which are 3 varieties of brown seaweed, Ascophyllum nodosum, Laminaria digitata, and Laminaria hyperborea. And then you have dulse, a nutrition-packed red seaweed, followed by Haematococcus pluvialis, which is a red algae loaded with astaxanthin. And I'll tell you why astaxanthin is such a big deal in the nutrient bank of VibrantSea. And then tying it all together and balancing this formula is Asian ginseng, which is Panax ginseng, which is an adaptogen, something that every Solle formula is built from a starting point of adaptogens and built out in complementary nutrition. And that is the case with VibrantSea as well. So let's look at some benefits. There are 7 that we want to highlight as well for this formula, starting with your thyroid. Thyroid health affects almost everything, and its change as there are hormone changes or other significant challenges in life tends to be most greatly affected and often is a weak link. Thyroid health is a focal point of VibrantSea and will make a big difference because of this nutritional balance in this formula and in the way you feel and your wellness. So because of the thyroid and other factors, the second benefit is all about hormone balance, supporting that however it may look for you. Also nourishing skin and joints. The third benefit, when we make changes, quality nutritional changes within, we can see the evidences in a healthy and glowing skin. In the way our skin ages, this is a big deal with this formula, not just the appearance and health of skin, but also other parts of our structural system, including joints and bone health. They are greatly benefited by this ocean plant power. Our immune function, we could probably talk just about that. There's been a lot of focus on these ocean plants in terms of their benefits for our immunity. We're just going to give short mention of it tonight. We would rather have you experience it for yourself, add this nutrition in, and watch that the strength that you get, avoiding some of those immune pitfalls and hopefully making less frequent colds and flus and other immune issues. Mental clarity is a big part of this formula. There are a lot of reasons for that. The hormone reasons are among them, but minerals and some of the key components in these ocean plants have been studied to show have a direct impact on our mental clarity and everything to do with cognitive health, protection of cognitive health, learning, the ability to acquire and maintain information, and anything to do with cognitive health will be benefited by this nutrition. Heart health is another benefit and a big one. There are many studies involving the ingredients in VibrantSea that show direct and indirect benefits to our heart. And so VibrantSea will become a great friend of your heart if you add that to your nutrition. And then just overall natural vitality. There are a lot of ways we can talk about that, and we'll talk about a few of them in the slides that follow. So let's just show you these wonderful, colorful, I might add, ingredients, starting with the spirulina, which really is beautiful. Spirulina is loaded with nutrition. It is so loaded that it can fill most gaps in nutrition that we might find in the typical diet, which can be so often lacking because, again, we do so much processed foods and I would say nutrient poor foods that come for various reasons onto our table. Spirulina can make those gaps up. It also has some particular compounds that are studied and have been for many years to show great benefits for your heart and for protection and longevity of heart health. Now, the second ingredient is, and really we're talking about three ingredients here, the Icelandic kelp blend. These are three different kelps. They're grown in cold water, Atlantic waters, off the coast of Iceland, as the name would suggest. They are geothermally dried, so not taken into any kind of artificial drying. Moderate temps are maintained to capture and retain as many as possible of the natural nutrients into the dry powder. They are known to have abundant natural amounts of iodine, fucoidan, and fucoxanthin. Three of these words that were mentioned in the first slide that we're going to tell you and share a few slides on why they're so good for us. They are stellar in what they bring to the table for our wellness. Now, the next ingredient, here's a picture of dulse. It's your red seaweed. I love dulse. It is rich in minerals and a variety of minerals, including iodine. It is rich in several vitamins associated with good eyesight and the protection of good eyesight, the maintenance of good eyesight as we age. Dulse is also rich in omegas. And as we know, omegas benefit virtually everything in wellness. They benefit the heart, they benefit the brain, they benefit the skin. So dulse, it's rich in all these things. You could say that dulse is nutrient wealthy, and that's why it's in VibrantSea. The next ingredient is astaxanthin. The difference between astaxanthin and VibrantSea and what you might find typically if you go shop for supplements that are named astaxanthin is that most of them are derived from animals. This is derived from a red algae. And so is plant sourced, which we greatly prefer. At Solle, we believe the body much more efficiently absorbs and applies nutrition from plants versus taking it in from animals. And so we always supplement with plant-based. All of the Solle products are plant-based nutrition. And our astaxanthin is no exception. Astaxanthin is famous for its cognitive health studies, for its brain protective studies. It is also famous for its skin vibrancy studies and for the way that the body manages toxins and waste in the liver and the management of fats, which is something that the liver takes charge in. Remember that the liver produces bile. Bile is what breaks down fats. And so there is a strong parallel to liver performance and components like astaxanthin in the diet. And that's why it's part of VibrantSea. And then we have finally the seventh ingredient, which is our adaptogen, Asian ginseng. It is mood lifting, it is invigorating, it is a longevity plant, meaning that all of the damaging effects of aging that can accelerate with environmental stressors, with emotional and mental stressors, through adaptogens, they are mitigated. That is where the studies on adaptogens lie, that the damage from stressors, not that the stress changes or necessarily lessens all that much, but the damage from long-term effects of stress is mitigated, is lessened by adaptogens, and Asian ginseng, the Panax ginseng, is one of the best. Reading a recent report, I noticed it has over 50 unique compounds. They call them ginsenosides. There are other ginsengs, but there are 50 in Asian ginseng that don't occur anywhere else in any other plant, unique to this wonderful root. And a couple of examples are shown in the slide. The central nervous system. Some of these compounds are stimulating and lifting, bringing vibrancy to it, and others are calming and quieting and mitigating stresses and anxiety and anxiousness. Both of these compounds, both groups are in the same root. A truly adaptogenic property where the body is able to grab what it is lacking to provide a balance once again. Great example of how that happens through the central nervous system with Asian ginseng. And the same thing, another example that I included on this slide has to do with our metabolism and appetite. There are compounds in Asian ginseng that stimulate a good, healthy appetite. And there are those that suppress, that we will feel a mitigation of cravings. Things that we don't really wish we were always wanting that aren't the best for us. Both of these types of compounds, stimulating and suppressing, are in the ginseng, another example of adaptogenic properties. So Asian ginseng plays a great role in this formula. Now let's move to highlights from Dr. Allison. These following slides come from her deep dive into these three kind of strange terms if you're new to ocean plant nutrition: fucoidan, fucoxanthin, and astaxanthin. She explains why these are ocean powerhouse compounds. They do so much for wellness. Fucoidan is the first one. Fucoidan is very simply, it's just a complex carbohydrate from the ocean. It is a marine polysaccharide. Makes up cell walls of brown algae. Icelandic kelps are 3 varieties of brown algae. They are cold water, as I mentioned, and they grow in nutrient-rich underwater forests. Why is fucoidan such a big deal? It centers on inflammation. Such a great deal of the conversation around fucoidan, and it ties into inflammation. Why? Because inflammation is the body's message in so many imbalances of health, because it accompanies something that's off, lacks of nutrition, a lacking of nutrition, or you can have chemicals and other toxins that cause a problem. Inflammation accompanies that imbalance. So common struggles with inflammation where it's kind of gotten out of balance would be a lot of joint pain or persistent pains of different types, not just in the joints, that don't tend to go away, that that seem to keep coming back. Fatigue, common or constant fatigue. Insomnia, constant interrupted sleep. Any kind of condition of the heart that draws concern, including and of the circulation, the blood, including the sugar levels in blood. Immune disorders, where the immune system is not functioning as it should function, even to the extent of attacking itself, the immune system. Feelings of depression, frequent infections. These are all evidences of an overabundance of inflammation. The studies show, says Dr. Allison, that fucoidan is, quote, well documented for its significant anti-inflammatory activity. Now, the next point about fucoidan that's so important is that it's such a great antioxidant. Why are antioxidants talked about so much, and why are they so important? Because the body is pretty amazing. It's built to handle regular oxidation. But what happens is when we're under a stressful situation, it could be either physical or emotional. It could come because of chemicals or pollutants or toxins. It could come because of highly processed or genetically modified foods. It can come for a lot of reasons. When there is stress, a stressful condition, we need a lot more to mitigate the oxidation that occurs. I think stress is one of the main focuses here at Solle, one of the greatest culprits at causing an overage of oxidation that the body has to manage and often can't because we lack the nutrition. Fucoidan can be an amazing answer to that question. What can I do to mitigate an overoxidation? An example, and this is from Dr. Allison, an example of when I might be in that situation, because how do I know? How do I know if my body's not up to the challenge in that oxidative battle? Well, here are some evidences. Again, inflammation that won't resolve. Even though I do certain things that should bring inflammation down, it doesn't drop down. Okay, there's a clue that oxidation, the antioxidants, are not at the level they need to be in our diet. All the cardiovascular risk factors like blood pressures that are out of the normal range, and obesity, anything that is commonly viewed as a heart risk factor, they tie into antioxidant capabilities. Cognitive or neural decline, another biggie. Disrupted metabolism. So what do we mean by that? Anything that has to do with our body creating energy from nutrition. Anything that we might experience that's out of the ordinary. Maybe we have bloating. There are a number of things that we can say, hey, something's not quite right in my metabolism. That all ties into antioxidant levels that our diet needs to provide. Environmental toxins, I mentioned that, smoking, pollution, etc., chemicals that are around us. And then oxidative stress of skin, premature aging. We can look at our skin itself. There are times when the skin can show us pretty clearly we're not giving our body enough antioxidant support. Skin is suffering. So I love all these examples because they can be mitigated with ocean plant power. Now, the next point of fucoidan that is a really big topic of conversation is the heart. It protects the heart. Fucoidan protects the heart. How does it do it? It helps the body manage fats in the blood better. There's even study, and Dr. Allison cites a study here on this slide, where fucoidan increases what's called the reverse transport of cholesterol. Takes it out of the artery wall, sends it back to the liver, breaks it down so that the body can eliminate. And notice the final point on her slide, stopping lipids or fats from forming and reducing their accumulation. Fucoidan is wonderful in the body's management of fats. Remember, fats are super important in the diet, but we need more good fats in the diet. We probably bring too many bad fats, and then the body has to struggle to manage them. Fucoidan can help. Next point about fucoidan. It is protective of not just your brain, but your entire nervous system. These are all, where these statements are given by Dr. Allison, she has references. If you'd like to look at her full presentation, then contact someone who was at Ignite or contact us at the office and we can give you her references as well. But fucoidan is protectant for even brain injury, blood vessel damage in the brain, senile dementia, neuron cell death, mitochondria functioning. So mitochondria, they're the little energy plants in each cell. They produce energy. Without energy, a cell doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So preserving the production of energy is something we always want to give attention to. Fucoidan actually shows evidence of improving the output of mitochondria. I love that. And then the final point, activating neurite growth. Dr. Allison talked about, look, anything you want to do, if you want to learn something, change something, develop something, and life is about that, it requires new neural pathways. For that to happen, we need outgrowth. And nutritionally and from stress impact, we're hampered in our ability to create that so very often in life. So fucoidan is something that gives that extra lift to neurite outgrowth and benefiting directly in that way, cognitive development. All right, that's fucoidan. Now the next of the crazy words, fucoxanthin. What is fucoxanthin? Well, if fucoidan is a complex carbohydrate from the ocean, fucoxanthin is a pigment. It's a red-orange colored xanthophyll. They are often more yellows, but some of them, like fucoxanthin, move into the spectrum toward orange and even red. Fucoxanthin is one of those. Those plant pigments are so often powerful, natural therapeutic ingredients that are safe and effective and make a big difference in wellness. Fucoxanthin is like that. It has so many benefits similar to fucoidan, bringing down inflammation, protecting from oxidative, so it's a stress, so it's an antioxidant, and also helping the body in the way it manages fat storage and the way it burns fat. Now, I love those two things. We want to minimize fat storage. It used to be a really big thing because food supply was often interrupted and we needed some reserves. Today, we're always trying to not store any because we have a ready food supply. But also the way that we burn it has a big impact on our metabolism and our wellness. So a big focus in fucoxanthin is on the liver. Remember, the liver is in charge of how the body manages fat. Fucoxanthin in the diet, unlike other beneficial compounds that are similar, they are the carotenoids. Unlike other carotenoids, you've heard of beta carotene, for example, a very famous and awesome nutrient. But unlike even that wonderful nutrient, fucoxanthin goes further and helps the body break down fats, slowing the creation of fats, preventing fats from being oxidized, turned into forms in the body like bad cholesterol. I'll put it that way, because cholesterol itself is good, but the bad form of it we don't want. And fucoxanthin helps the body minimize that formation, and then slowing down even creating fat cells. These are things we want. Notice those 4 bullet points. It's either slowing the bad or it's helping the good with regard to how the body manages fats. And then here's another slide from Dr. Allison on fucoxanthin. 2 other key benefits of fucoxanthin. It increases 2 very important hormones that play a role in how our body manages fats. Adiponectin and leptin. Notice adiponectin is the first one. Our insulin sensitivity, so the way our body handles blood sugar levels. Inflammation is reduced, and it stimulating the liver burning fat rather than storing fat, so that we can avoid a fatty liver and avoid storing too many fats in the body. Adiponectin plays a role, and with fucoxanthin, it's leveled up. It is found in higher levels. Leptin is the second one. Leptin is this great hormone that signals to the brain, don't eat. You don't need to eat anymore. You're full. So it's a satiety hormone, and it also regulates how the body burns and metabolizes fats. Again, leptin is increased, that hormone, with fucoxanthin. So 2 great reasons to have lots of these great ocean plants, several of which contain fucoxanthin in our diet every day, in the way we manage fats in the body. Now let's move to the last one that Dr. Allison highlighted, astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is important because it crosses the blood-brain barrier. I suspect we all do that's one of the reasons it's been so heavily studied for cognitive wellness benefits. It is protective really on all fronts of the brain. You can see that some of the more well-known diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington, ALS, all of those, when astaxanthin is part of the diet, there is a slowing of the negative processes. There is a protection that occurs. And so good amounts of astaxanthin in the diet are always a good idea when it comes to protecting brain health, even to, you can see, injuries, protecting so that if injuries do occur, that the damage is mitigated. So, and look at the final point on the slide, even neuropathic pain. So even certain types of pains are helped with the astaxanthin. A second benefit that I had to include on here is skin and eye health. We mentioned a little bit about earlier about eye health. There are a lot of reasons for that. You cannot improve eye health without helping the heart and circulation and blood vessels, and astaxanthin certainly does that. But notice in here, photoaging of the skin is helped with astaxanthin. So when collagen gets damaged and we get wrinkles, sagging, fine lines, etc., astaxanthin is a protector that can help the body. Remember, the body's always rebuilding, always trying to improve itself. If it can get the right building blocks, astaxanthin is one of those that the body can find very useful in protecting and restoring skin the way we'd like it to be. So it's wonderful in eye health and is very protective of the skin. Now, I'd like to finish my section of tonight's information by sharing with you highlights from Valerie Bledsoe's Focus on the Minerals in VibrantSea. Now, there are a huge number of minerals. All the important minerals are found in this formula. She only focused on 3 of them. And I'll tell you why she chose iodine, potassium, boron. Probably because they're overlooked. Now, maybe you look at it and say, well, potassium, that gets a lot of attention. It does, probably not as much as some others, but it gets a lot of attention. But iodine doesn't get any. Boron gets even less. And they are a problem for all of us in today's modern era. And so Valerie focused on them. I love that she did. Here's a little bit about what she shared. So there's vitamin K, potassium, K, boron, B. There is a book called The Mineral Fix by Dr. James DiNicolantonio. Now, I don't know if I pronounce his name, but he looks Italian to me. In The Mineral Fix, he quoted a study based on a nutritional examination study. And look what the study found. As much as we may know about potassium, we've heard of it, more than half of all Americans are deficient. We walk around deficient with potassium. That's more than likely the case. Boron, 3/4 of us are, and even higher. I would venture to say when it comes to boron, it's pretty much all of us. But these are the statistics from the study. The third, iodine, from the book, from Dr. David Brownstein's book, Iodine, Why You Need It and Why You Can't Live Without It. His 5th edition of that book was published in 2014. Here's what he has to say. We have now tested iodine levels in over 6,000 patients. Our results have been consistent. Approximately 96% of patients test low for iodine. Pretty much all of us do not get enough iodine in the diet, and it is a lot bigger deal than we realize. It does, by the way, directly affect thyroid, but it is a much bigger deal than simply the thyroid, even though I would say most of the attention has to do with thyroid. Here's why this is important to us. When we look at these deficiencies, we're just picking 3 key minerals that VibrantSea can help us solve. The same Dr. DiNicolantonio says, mineral deficiencies matter because they drive or contribute to nearly all chronic disease. Think about that for just a second. Nearly all chronic disease has a mineral deficiency component. When we improve that deficiency, we can make inroads and oftentimes solve those chronic conditions. That is the teaching here. So Valerie quotes Dr. Bernard Jensen. He called iodine the metabolizer. What does that mean? Well, just think of metabolism. When I say metabolism to you, it's how you get energy. It's how you absorb it from nutrients and how your cells express it. And everything that happens in between to have that happen is metabolism in the broadest definition. Dr. Bernard Jensen called iodine the metabolizer. That's how important and involved in your body's creation of energy it is. That is a very significant thought, and one that is worth a little bit of time and a little effort to make sure we have in our diet the iodine levels our body needs, which the evidence we just saw in the previous slide say we don't. We're not doing it. We need a better source. Well, we've given you 2 sources here. Valerie points out the Icelandic kelp blend, 3 kelps, very high in it, and dulse. Through that, a good amount of iodine, one that can make a difference-making amount of iodine is provided in the VibrantSea formula. One more quote from Dr. David Brownstein in a foreword to the book, The Iodine Crisis. Here's what Dr. Brownstein says. Over the last 40 years, iodine levels have declined over 50%. The consequences of this decline are severe, including epidemic increases in illnesses of the breast, thyroid, ovaries, uterus, and prostate. So men, we got you in there too. So think about it. 40 years ago, back when people were making their hair up big, that's the 80s, right? Iodine was double what it is now in our systems as they measure iodine levels. Now think of all the different wellness challenges that seem to be harder now. It seem to be worse, because they are, I think. How much of that is tied to iodine? A big portion. So I love this quote. Now let's move on to potassium. Same doctor, Dr. Bernard Jensen, called potassium the great alkalizer. Why do we care about alkaline? Because too much acid, too much of an acidic condition in the body, lots of sugar, lots of soda, lots of chemicals, too much meat, too much stress, all of these can create severe acid situations, and lots of health challenges come with that. The great alkalizer helps. The great alkalizer is used by the body to balance back out. More potassium is needed. We're usually low in it. Dulse is one of the ingredients. There's lots of potassium in this formula, but dulse is an example of one that's particularly high in potassium, bringing this great alkalizer to our diet. Why do we care? Well, what does potassium do? It supports muscle strength and endurance. Everything to do with heart health, nerve firing, recovery and resilience, both physically, I would add, and emotionally. Overall body efficiency, anything we're asking the body to do. Nothing the body does can be done without energy. And it can be done inefficiently, or it can be done efficiently. With potassium, with plenty of potassium, enough alkaline in our diet, our body's more efficient. It doesn't need to expend as much energy to get where it needs to go in the processes that it's trying to complete. So body efficiency, detox and elimination. We've got to keep the body clear and clean. Energy has to flow. Things have to flow. The blood has to flow. Oxygen, lungs, they cannot have blockages. Potassium is key in the organs that keep the body clean and clear. Pain and discomfort. More potassium, less pain and discomfort. I've already mentioned the alkaline balance, vitality and energy. I've mentioned the last point on her slide. Nourishing hair, nerves, and tissues. That kind of covers about everything, doesn't it? Inside and out. Potassium is part of all of it. It's the great alkalizer, and acid conditions affect everything. Alkaline nutrition can also positively affect everything. So this is from Valerie. How do I know if I'm a little deficient? What am I one of them on the side of too low potassium? Okay. Notice some of the emotions she's included in here. Fearfulness, loss of ambition and drive, reduced oxygenation. I just don't feel like I can get enough breath. Acidity, mention this, restlessness, nervousness, negativity, oversensitivity to touch, isolation, that is, I am seeking isolation, aches and pains, low energy, muscular atrophy, fallen abdominal organs, which is a little bit to me in the same vein. These are all evidences that I can boost my potassium levels. Now those are longer conversations, and you should, at the next event, you should grab Valerie and ask her about some of those, because I think it's all really instructive and fascinating. And now we get to boron. This is the third mineral that Valerie talked about. Asian ginseng is a common name. Panax ginseng is its botanical. I already talked a little bit about it, But Valerie focused on the all-important mineral of boron, which, by the way, is quite high. It is found in abundant amounts in Asian ginseng, and it is one of the reasons why Asian ginseng was selected to be in our VibrantSea formula as the adaptogen. Boron is crucial to our body's usage of calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D. So bone health is one evidence of a proper balance there. It's also crucial in hormone regulation. Does not happen if boron's too low. Cognitive function, compromised without enough boron. Immune support, joint health, gut health, beauty and skincare. Yes, as boron is important as well for skin. And body's protection from radiation, boron plays a role. So this is a mineral that we can't overlook. Now, and we summarize these three. We just focused on iodine, potassium, and boron. But there are three pretty biggies that happen to be abundant in VibrantSea. Hence the focus. Valerie says, minerals are like the spark plugs of life. They are required for every enzyme, every hormone, every cell process. Cellular communication does not happen without minerals. Most people today are deficient due to what? Stress, poor soil quality, diet, some of the factors I mentioned previously. And these three minerals, iodine, potassium, boron, they're difference makers for energy, hormonal balance, and cellular repair. I can get a little overwhelmed if I'm looking at everything, but I can look at these three and make a huge difference because they are three minerals that I think are most grossly inadequate in the typical diet and that can be addressed with VibrantSea. So Valerie says minerals, they're not optional supplements. They're genetic and energetic essentials. Why? Because we're not getting enough of them in the typical diet. Okay, well, that does it for a summary of some of the training at Soul Ignite. I hope this has given you some information that gives you perspective on the great benefits of VibrantSea. Here's once again the slide of the product. Now we move to part 2 of our presentation tonight, which is all about perimenopause, menopause, and a great new tool that we're introducing tonight. So here to help me do that, I'm going to invite here to the Soul Studios, Hope Anderson, who is our marketing director. And Hope, I am so happy that you joined us. I'm going to turn the time to you. Tell them about why you're so excited for this next tool that we have, and whatever else you'd like to share.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited. I think Greg mentioned it. It is a guide, a digital guide. It's a guide as a product, and it's the first one we've ever had. And it was written by Dr. Allison Caldwell Andrews. Some of you may know her. She's our principal scientific advisor. She's who created a lot of the slides and information that Greg was pulling from tonight. And she's awesome. And I'll dive into in a little bit why we chose her and what her background is and how she compiled this guide. But it is the Menopause Guidebook is the official title, and it says from overwhelm to empowerment. And that really is our goal with this guide. Is when we were talking about this product and we were talking about this market, it's such a large market of women because if you're counting the perimenopause to postmenopause years, that's a lot of decades of your life, especially with the different factors in our modern world. We're seeing women enter perimenopause earlier and earlier because I feel like that generation of women who took, hormonal birth control and all the things and all the fragrances and all the candles and everything of just the way things have developed and products have developed are beginning to hit it. And they're like, whoa, this is a little bit worse. This is a little bit different than how I thought it was going to be. So we really what we wanted to do with this guide is compile all of the science-backed information into one place that can talk about symptoms, it can talk about all the different things, and just have one source to be able to go to. Because I'm not even near that phase yet, and already stuff pops up in my feed on social media about it, and it can be a little overwhelming because I feel like it used to be this topic that nobody talked about, and now so many people are talking about it, and they have so many different opinions.
It's like a crapshoot. What you're gonna pick? What do I do?
You're like, I don't know what's this person's qualifications. I have no idea, and it just takes so much time and brain power to really dig in and figure out what is true and what is just what we like to call fluff. What's trendy to post on social media. And so that's what Dr. Allison has done here in this guide. And it's 35 plus pages worth of just really scientific, clear information of why these things are happening, what's happening and why, and then also what you can do about it and which nutrients have been shown to actually help. So, all right, before we dive in more, I want to show the basics here of what this guide is. So here you see a little preview of what it would look like if you'd purchased the guide. This is just the very first page of it. And then over here on the side, there's a contents list. So it lists out the different sections we have of these guides. And within these there's subsections and more specific information. But you'll see it covers the transition to menopause. So that premenopause, perimenopause, and then the transition into menopause, what menopause is actually defined as. It covers all of that. Why it matters now more than ever. That's an interesting topic to me because we talk a little bit about how this experience has changed for a few of the reasons that I was mentioning earlier. And what you were talking about too, diet, lifestyle, the added stress. It seems to be getting harder for women in this phase. And then we talk about the hormone players. This was an interesting section because Allison really breaks down all the different keys and what they do. And it was educational for me because I consider myself to be fairly educated in the health realm. And these were new for me. I was not aware of all of them. So I found that really valuable. And then we go into what's behind your symptoms. She provides a list, and you'll see the next segment too is symptoms of perimenopause. This is really helpful because a lot of them you wouldn't immediately know that it's a symptom of perimenopause. And so I felt like that was really empowering to know what the symptoms are so that you can better look at your own health and see, is this something that's really happening to me? And she even talks about the difference between symptoms of chronic stress versus perimenopause, because a lot of them overlap. And so it can be confusing of which action should I be taking? What's going on with me? And so I thought that was really helpful. And then she talks about what to do right now. And she covers lifestyle basics of things that have been proven to help, as well as which nutrients can help, which is the next section. What does the science actually show? And then, of course, she dives into, at the very end, specific products that we have that can help based on which nutrients you really need. So yeah, it's a lot. And she has all her references in there. So if you're a science nerd, you can always dive in and look at all the studies. It's super fun. But let's see what else. All right, price. Here we go. $19.95. This is a steal of a deal for all the information and the hard work and the time that she has put into this guide. If you've purchased other digital guides online, you will recognize this. Super awesome. And another great thing about it is that because it's digital, we can give it to you in both Spanish and English. Super easy. You always have access to it wherever you are. It's lifetime access. And so if we ever update a section or add a little bit of something, it's in the same guide. So it's awesome. You don't have to worry about buying a new version. And then also something really cool that we've done is we've included a $15 product discount post-purchase that they receive, because we end with those sections of which nutrients can help and which specific products can help. And we want to encourage people a little extra to take that step of okay, now I have all this knowledge, what can I begin doing with it? And that's something that you can immediately begin doing, is filling those nutritional gaps.
I love that, Hope, because I love the education and the focus on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I'm just a guy, but this guidebook is so complete to me from what I hear from women. But I love the idea of, in anything, of getting the full story through someone who's carefully sifting through, like you said, all the fluff, and then getting a little bit of a hand from, in this case, the company to say, okay, go do something about it. There are several good things you can do that can make a difference, whatever phase you're in. So yeah. I like that discount code too.
Yeah. And another thing too I'll add is it's not like all of her solutions are the products. She actually doesn't spend a lot of time talking about it. It's there for people who are interested, but there's so many things she lists of what you can do that aren't just, hey, purchase this, right?
Yeah.
And so they're great tools if you want to add them.
Lifestyle choices and things that you're already doing that aren't really extra money.
Exactly.
But they can make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She talks a lot about xenoestrogens and how to cut those out and which products they're in. So there's a lot of general knowledge and things you can do no matter what. I want to scan to see if there's any questions here. Oh, Jaliva had a question for you about potassium. Did you see that?
Oh, I think I did, Jaliva. I saw it on there. Here. Yeah. Now I can't. That's a tough question, Jaliva. It says if the doctor has told someone to stay off potassium foods, can they take Vibrancy? I can't that's a tough situation for me to get in, say, against what a doctor would do. I can just tell you in our experience, the nature of when someone gets potassium, where it comes from is huge. We believe in nutrition. I believe in foods, therapeutic foods, and it's different there than taking potassium pills, even though I guess in the question it said potassium foods. I would say this, there's a lot of really good brand specialists who have dealt with women and men in those situations who probably have some great advice for you. I'm sorry for deferring. I'm going to defer that one, Jaliva, but because I don't want to give my opinion is probably going to be a little different.
That's perfect. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, so I'm super excited about it, if you can't tell by how much I've already talked. And I did get the chance to interview Dr. Allison just about 2 weeks ago. Sit down with her in the studio, talk with her about this guide and why we created it and a little bit of her opinion on it. And that video is actually part of the purchased content, but we wanted to give you access to it to watch it here tonight, just as a little extra thank you for coming. So we can go ahead and play that. Hi everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for purchasing our Menopause Guidebook. We're so excited about this project and the scope of it, and to be able to provide a resource like this. It's something we're really passionate about. I'm Hope Anderson. I'm the marketing director here at Soul Naturals, and I have with me today Dr. Caldwell Andrews.
Right, or you call me Dr. Allison, because I'm your friend.
She's awesome. She's someone we have known for a long, long time and trust. She has an incredible background. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about that in a second. But that's why we reached out to her first thing when we started considering creating a resource of this scope. It's something we really wanted to do right and to be able to provide something that you could trust. So I'm going to let you tell a little bit more about yourself and this project.
So back in the day, a while ago, like in the 1900s, my first real interest was really about what is the effect of the mind-body connection. And so I was really interested in the impact of nutrition, food nutrition on depression. And this is late 80s, early 90s. And everyone thought I was cuckoo, like just absolutely cuckoo. They're like, no. And this is when doctors were literally saying, what you eat has no effect on your health.
Which is so crazy to hear
Right?
now, because now we're like, that's psychotic.
You quack?
Yeah.
But at the time, who was the quack, right? And so I kept having that interest. I ended up getting a PhD in clinical psychology because I'm so interested in behavior and the effect of the mind and the body on your behavior. And so then I had a postdoc in mind-body medicine at the Yale School of Medicine, where I kind of solidified that interest and had the tools, doing active, lots and lots of research projects, publishing some articles, teaching, and then doing clinical work, all of those things. Also, my own lived experience and the experience I've had just talking to people.
Yeah.
So I've kind of maintained that. It's really helped me figure out how to find out about things and how to talk about them, I think.
Yeah. No, I feel like you're wonderful at that. And that's why we have also Dr. Allison is our lead scientific advisor here at Soul Naturals and has been for a very long time. So she's well acquainted with our herbs and our formulas, in addition to everything else you bring. So.
Well, I love it. It's fun.
Yeah,
Right.
It is. Okay, Dr. Allison, so the first question we have for you is, why is it so important to do something about this and learn about this topic as women? I mean, hopefully as everyone, right?
Right.
But it's a problem for women.
Well, and what you're saying is exactly what it is. It's a problem. And so what we're trying to do is reduce suffering. We just don't want people to suffer, especially unnecessary suffering. And there's a lot of suffering that comes in the area of perimenopause. Lots of it's due to ignorance. People just don't know what to do. They don't know what's happening. I look back at my experience and I think, well, first of all, it's a little crazy that I'm past that. Like, what is happening?
What is life? I know.
What is life? But I think that there are a lot of things. If I had known what they were, I didn't even know they had anything to do with perimenopause. And I think if I'd known, I would have been able to handle them much better, or, you know, do things to help instead of just be confused. And so I think a lot of suffering comes because of lack of information, and then lack of knowing what to do, not knowing that there are symptoms that might go away if you use really, really good nutrition, or you use herbs that have effects in these areas. So people need to know.
I like that. And I think we're at this interesting time where it used to be, it was lack of information because nobody talked about it. And it was kind of just pushed down as, you know, you put your head down, you suffer through, everyone goes through it. But now I almost feel like it's like towards the other end, where it's like you hear so much, especially on social media, and just there's so much information out there that it can be hard to filter like what is really reliable information, especially now that, I mean, there's all these people, it's a huge market, so there's all these solutions popping up, and it's hard to know what's real, like what's really worth investing my time and money in, and what is not. And so I think the reliability and the verification of the knowledge is also so important as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the verification, the reliability, these are words I use a lot, you know, scientific nerd. I really think that the empirical method, fine, you know, we go out and we investigate, and then we try to publish. And there are a lot of difficulties with that whole world, a lot of difficulties. But you read enough and you start to kind of get a sense of what is out there. The other thing that I find that's really interesting that completely relates to this is that there's this huge gap between science and practice, right? And so you have science happening here, and practice is not going to hear about that for like 20 years, sometimes more. And a lot of times what's happening in science is the science is then informed by what's interesting, what the story is. And so we have the story, and so science is informed by the story, and then goes and does the studies that are in alignment with the story, but not really useful necessarily. And so it's hard to kind of get out of that loop.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, certainly with menopause, perimenopause, not only did we have trouble even studying this because it's a women's thing, and so why would we study that? Just have some men do menopause. We'll
exactly.
see what's
all the scientific studies around them anyways, so
that's it's been hard to change that. And so there's not a lot of interest or study. The studies that get done because they're funded. You know, it's expensive to do studies, and so the studies that get done are funded, and who's got the money?
And I do feel like finally we're getting to a point where women are not just sitting back, like we are being louder about this. And so the unfortunate part is, like, I feel like we're getting there, but it takes a while because studies take time, and then you have to, you know, process them for a while, and especially if they're long studies, which are the best, it takes a while, like you said, between like the information and the practice.
And you have to sort through what is real, like you said, what is real?
Yeah.
What is actually solid, internally valid scientific information?
It's so hard.
But for real.
But worth the investment.
So the other thing that you had mentioned that this kind of sparked this idea of, we haven't been talking about this for far too long. In addition to not really talking about it, you know, I think you said put your head down, just kind of do it, get through it. I think it's worse now than it used to be. You know, I think in years past, it wasn't this bad. And so there wasn't the same amount of interest as there is right now. There's more suffering. When we look outside the United States, outside Western countries, what we see is that perimenopause is really different, and it is not nearly as full of suffering as we have it. So there are things we're doing that we have to stop doing. Right.
If you could tick a few of those off, I know you dive into this in the guide, but if you could tick a few of those off, what would you say are factors in these later years that have made that problem worse?
I think there's two primary factors: synthetic estrogens and xenoestrogens. And so I do talk a fair amount about that in the guide. But the synthetic estrogens, I think about. We look at the birth control pill. We don't think anything of it. We're like, that'll regulate your period. No worries.
Yeah.
We just don't look at the impact that has. It has a huge impact on a woman's body. And we seem to think it doesn't have an impact.
Yeah, and I feel like you're hearing more about that now because women who went through that are now reaching that age where they're beginning to experience perimenopause and menopause.
So they're saying, wait, this is not okay.
Wait a second. Yeah.
So synthetic estrogen like that. And there's other forms of synthetics, but that might be a really common one to relate to. And then the xenoestrogens are estrogens that are out there in the environment. There's all kinds of them. Yeah. Like I have a list, and just reading through the list, you're like, how can I even
it can be overwhelming.
Keep track?
Right. Yeah. It's like, how could I possibly avoid this all? And we do address that in the guide. I love that you hit on that of like, here's a list of where they are, but also like, you don't need to swap everything all at once. We'll talk about that more. But it's impossible. But small changes can make a difference. And that's what I loved was so motivating in this guide is you do list like, here are things you can do to make a change and to change your experience for the better. And so while we're on that topic, when people are prepping to read this guide, what can they expect? What do you cover? And what outcomes will they receive?
Well, I talk a lot about different stages. What is perimenopause? What's menopause? What's andropause? Just for fun. And, like a number of just information on those stages. Yeah. Then I talk about what are the lifestyle impacts on menopause, like diet, exercise, etc.
Well, and touching back to us talking about like why it matters so much now, I do feel like exercise and diet and things like that have also changed just in general. And so it also makes it worse.
And what's so interesting about the diet exercise thing is you have this kind of like two different versions. One where we're just not exercising. We're just not eating well. It's processed foods out the wazoo. And then there's another group of people who are super interested in exercise and good, healthy food. So that's helpful. The problem is that this starts affecting people at a young age. And if you try to get away from processed foods, you have to really be committed. Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard. Okay, perfect. So we talk about symptoms. I feel like that's a big question a lot of people have is like, am I even in perimenopause? How do I know? That's something I love you touched on. And what is menopause? We also talk about things you can change, what can help. And I also love that you threw in a section there at the end of like specifically like nutrition focused, what has been proven to help, what can actually make a difference. Right. Because that's what we're wanting to know as well. In addition to the lifestyle factors is there anything else I can add to help my body get through this better?
Right. And then also some explanation about what is about this weight gain. Or what is about this?
It's a big question.
There's a whole list of things, gallbladder issues. Like you would be surprised how many, well, you're not surprised, obviously, how many things that are connected to perimenopause. So many things.
I was surprised when I first read the guide. I was like, oh, wow, this is a little intimidating. I don't know if I want to get older. But it's good to know because I feel like I've benefited from all these women talking about it because, I'm already making swaps in all of, like, I've swapped to clean brands in most of my personal care products and things like that. And it's like, like the science is showing, hey, that will make a difference. So it is good to know about, even if you haven't reached that point, which is something I love about this guide is it's good for everyone.
Well, and speaking of everyone, I know you'd asked me about, so I have in this little introduction or dedication, whatever it is, I really wanted this to be especially seen by these young women, 12 to 18, right? Because they're at a place that they can start these habits of good habits for their health, but also avoiding things like birth control pills, avoiding xenoestrogens.
Well, and it's also it's at a hard point too, where you're beginning to really be marketed to by all these beauty products and self-care products that have these things in them. So it's a critical point, and obviously it's difficult for a 12 to 18-year-old girl to be interested in this already and be thinking about what about when I'm in perimenopause?
Oh, look at this, there's estrogens in here.
Exactly. But that's where I feel like this guide is such an important tool to older women who are cognizant of those things to be able to give that knowledge to the younger generation so that they can have a better experience. And I love that.
So we all can lift each other.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Before we end, I wanted to end asking you, what are a few of the reasons why you're most passionate about and excited about this guidebook?
I think I'm a big advocate for women capitalizing on who we are and the strength and power we have. And so I really want people to see that menopause is not this leftover, you're done now, just, sit there and die, right?
Yeah.
But it is, I kind of talk about it as this is like unlocking another level of power. And if we can manage to do the things that help us really maintain our health, then we can move forward and be out there making a difference. And so that's really what I'm looking for.
I love that. I love that message of like, it's not the end of the road. I think I recently read somewhere where we're one of like 3 species that go through menopause.
Right.
And they kind of call it this grandmother effect of we have this ability to, we're not distracted by young kids anymore. We're not having little babies anymore, to really help the next generation and to pass on all this knowledge and experience that we've gained. And it's such a powerful effect.
Right.
So
we can go do things in the world and be powerful. Right.
Well, awesome. I think that's a great thing to end on. Enjoy the guide and go do things in the world and be powerful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was awesome. We're both just saying, we love Dr. Allison.
I love that message, and I don't want to cut in too much because I know you want to show them some more. But that video, so anyone who gets the guide, everyone who buys the guide, that video comes with it. They get to see that whole interview.
Yep, it'll be right at the beginning. So, and I feel like we wanted to start it off that way to give a face to the author and like let them know a little bit about her and why she's qualified to speak on this topic. And then also to just kind of set the right mindset for going into the guide, because Allison is very thorough, and like especially when you get into like reading about all the hormone players, you're like, whoa, this is a little bit of a lot. And she says it really clearly, but it's just like it's intricate information. And so I feel like having all the context and like that motivation and knowing where the guide came from is the right mindset you need before you start reading it.
I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
Yep.
Okay, really quick, I want to show you guys where you can find this if you've purchased it. Let me wake my mouse up here. Okay, here we go. Also, if you're wondering, it's under shop. If you go to hormonal health, it's right there. So if you're looking for where you can buy the guide. But if we scroll down here, you'll notice, so this is a test account where we have purchased the content. So if you've purchased the guide, there's this new section called Purchase Content. You can click on it, and then it opens up for you right here. So there you'll see that video, and here's our little like forward and dedication, and then you can navigate over here to all the different sections. Some sections have like images or charts. Here's all the references right there, and then like also down at the bottom, you can navigate back and forth. So super easy, lifetime access. You can translate over here just by hitting like English or Spanish. Super awesome, really easy. And then if we go back to our account, the other thing that we did with this is we have a mini free version, just like a taste of the information for people who are interested, who want to find out a little bit and see if they are like ready to purchase the full guide. So anyone can share that. And if you just copy this right here, it shares it.
So Hope,
Yes.
whether I'm a brand specialist or a member, doesn't matter.
Yep.
Every single Solle account has that little free mini guide under their shareable links.
Great
Yeah,
question.
I love that. I love it because I can read it. I was looking through the mini guide today, and there's a lot of great stuff. It kind of gets me a little bit of a picture on that, and then I can go get the rest of the story and buy it.
Yes. Okay, awesome. So I really quick wanted to show you mini guide, what's here. You have the option to purchase the full thing straight up, right up from the beginning. Then we have like our dedication, the intro. We have kind of like that period of like, okay, menopause, like premenopause, long transition, what that looks like. And then we have some charts about xenoestrogens. This looks huge on the screen, don't worry. Then we talk a little bit about like what's behind the symptoms. It goes through a lot. And then we have references as well for people.
This is all the mini guide. This is the free one that everybody has.
And you guys, I'm on a big screen, so like it looks like not that much, but like it's quite a bit of information, especially for free. It's awesome. And then they have the option to purchase again here, and it like recovers like, hey, this is what you would be purchasing. These are the topics that are covered. And then we have a little bit about the author so that people can know, okay, who wrote this? Do I trust her? And then we also have a link here to products that are specifically recommended for women in this phase of life. It's actually a new package that we also launched today because it has our new Vibrancy product in it. So it's something we're really excited about. So
that's awesome. And I think in a future Why Solle Works, we'll do a little focus on that package. But for now, you can see it there, and it's right there at the end of the mini guide. And then also, I guess, in the full guide, it would show it as well, right?
Yes, at the end there, it also shows that package. And then if you're looking for that package, it's just on our packages page. It went live today, so it's live for everyone. It's in US and Canada.
Well, thank you for sharing all of this, and I wish we could go on. I'm looking at the time. I'm thinking we probably better wrap up for tonight. Let me just share one more quick thing. There's something at Solle called Share the Wealth. We're launching a new product today, VibrantSea, and there is always a way that someone new who needs this in their journey, and we sort of feel like we all do, that they can get some extra savings. Every single Solle account, whether you're a brand specialist or a member, you have a little link. In fact, isn't that link right there by the free menopause link? It's right there with your links, and the new free guide link is just right there with it. Well, there's a Share the Wealth link in the same area. Whether you're a member or a brand specialist, everyone has one. That link is awesome because you can share what you learned tonight with someone new, and that new person can get $10 off their Vibrancy. So you can do that with the Vibrancy product. When you share it, they get $10 that they save, and you get 10 rewards to use towards buying another bottle of Vibrancy for yourself or buying that package. So I love Share the Wealth because it's a way that you can always help somebody get involved, and you've got a little something to share for them. You can share that wellness.
I love that. And I love like the naturalness of this referral program because I have 3 sisters, and it's like the second we try something, or like we've been like swapping over all of our personal care brands to clean brands, it's like immediately we text each other. Like we literally have a group message where it's like, this is what we bought. Here you go. Here's all the details. So now you have like a little something extra. It's like as women, we're already talking to our friends about things that we use and things that we love. So now you just like get a little extra kickback and get something to give to them as well when you are already doing that.
I love that. I love that, Hope. And let me just say one thing too. For you men out there, yes, I'm about 2 weeks into it myself, and I do notice a difference. And I use all sorts of products in nutrition. It's because we live it. I admit we call it here in the Solle offices, we have open bar, which is for Solle's drinks and everything, and we're just throughout the day. And yet, when I added Vibrancy, I do not want to miss it. For me, I'll tell you in a future date, how much I take, but it's an early afternoon thing for me, and I've noticed a big difference. So, men, it's a big deal for you too. Tonight, the focus has been on women, and we want to keep a special focus on women. But just know, men, this is a great thing for us as well.
Yes. Okay, really quick before we close, let me answer a question that Chris Hendrick had. She said, Hope, are we allowed to use information in the guides for reels and posts? This is a great question. So I would say it depends on like how much information you're sharing, right? Because this is purchased content, we don't want long, big quotes going out. And like, especially if you're going to share something, share it with attribution to Dr. Allison, right? Because she's the one that created it. Yeah. So if you want to share an idea or a small quote, great, go for it. You can kind of like reiterate knowledge, but we don't want you sharing the whole thing because Dr. Allison put a lot of hard work into writing this, and it's her content, so we do want to protect that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the way it's set up where everyone's got a free guide in there, every account can access some information. And then, of course, the full guide, it's a really, really reasonable price, and you have this lifetime. And I like Hope's point. We always are working on education. Dr. Allison's always adding things. And in the future, as little sections are added, that'll just be added into the guide. You don't have to buy another one. Yeah. You sort of have this lifetime library of this menopause, perimenopause, and everything that's going to come in the future there as well. So it's totally worth it, and I think respect the copyright for sure.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks.
Well, thank you, Hope, for joining us tonight, and thank you, all of you, for joining us. I hope that you find that information valuable, and I know that so many of you are looking at you on the chat board, do so much to help others, bring them that information and let them begin their journey as well. We'll see you soon. on the next Why Solle Works. Good night, everybody.